Shabbat Shalom, everyone, and welcome to Congregation Sherry Zedek in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. It's so good to have you there. We know we have lots of international friends that they've been joining us for so many weeks now, and it's amazing to have you there. So thank you so much to everyone from tuning in. It's a great pleasure to come into your homes and to celebrate this Shabbat together. And I don't know if you are aware, but this is a very, very special Shabbat. It's a Shabbat that has a specific name. It's called Shabbat Shuva, the Shabbat of the return. And that is the Shabbat that is in between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. You see, the time between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur is very special. We call it the Aseret Yemei Teshuvah, the 10 days of Teshuvah. So this is a one last chance that we have to make some adjustments to our lives. So perhaps we can be a little better just before we enter full speed into Yom Kippur on Sunday night. So take this opportunity to elevate your soul, to bring some joy into your life. And to do that, please be a participator of our service. Of course, sometimes the temptations of just being a spectator is huge. You may be still in your pajamas in front of a screen, so it doesn't matter. Try to participate. Sing with us. React to your comments. Use the chat so we can know what you think. We'd love to interact with you. So we welcome to this special service. It's going to be a great service. So let's start singing together the Hine Matov Umanayim, because it's really, really great when we are all together celebrating Shabbat. Please join us. Hine matov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. 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 Who is in the chat, Leslie?
Well, we have a good turnout on our chat so far this morning. Alain, Shabbat Shalom and welcome here. David Wilder, it's nice to see you. Yerach, welcome to Winnipeg. Nice to have you here in the sanctuary this morning. Alice, we've got Bill here. He's doing good. He's looking well this Shabbos. Shabbat Shalom to Alice. Bonnie, welcome. It's so nice to have you with us. Leon, Shabbat Shalom. Marvin, Sandy, Shana Tova Umituka to you as well. Terry from Toronto. Jerome Foman, welcome. Shelley assures us she is not in her pajamas today.
She said today.
We don't know about every other day, but today she's ready for Shabbos. And welcome to Debbie Pollock and Louis Stern. Very nice to see you all here this morning.
And Israel and Lori bin Noon, welcome. Shabbat Shalom to everyone. Let's begin with the formal part of our service. So please rise for the morning blessings, the Birkot HaShachar. Elohai Elohai, Neshama, Neshama, Shenatatabi, Shenatatabi, Tehorahi, Tehorahi. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher nata'al la'aseh k'vivin alev ki ben yom uben layla. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asani betzalmo. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asani ben chorihin. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asani Israel. Together. Elohai, Elohai, Neshama, Neshama, Shenatatabi, Shenatatabi, Tehorahi, Tehorahi. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, pokei achivrim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, malbish arumim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, matir asurihim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, zokeif kefufim. Together. Elohai, Elohai, Neshama, Neshama, Shenatatabi, Shenatatabi, Tehorahi, Tehorahi. Page 6. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, rokah haaretz al hamayim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asa li kol tzorki. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamehi mitzadei gaver. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, ozer Israel bigevura. Neshama,
Neshama, Neshama,
Shenatatabi,
Shenatatabi, Shenatatabi,
Tehorahi.
Tehorahi, Tehorahi.
Bottom of the page. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, oter Israel betifara. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, anotel layaf kohach. One more time. Elohai, Elohai, Neshama, Neshama, Shenatatabi, Shenatatabi, Tehorahi,
Tehorahi.
And please remain standing. Page 7. Baruch she'amar. Baruch she'amar ve'haya olam. Baruch hu. Baruch oseh bereshit. Baruch omer ve'oseh. Baruch ozer u'mekayem. Baruch merachem al haaretz. Baruch merachem al haberiot. Baruch meshalem tzachar tov lireav. Baruch chai lahad ve'kayam lanetzach. Baruch podeh u'matzil. Baruch shemo lael. You may be seated. What's going on in the chat?
Oh, well, you know what? I caught some detail in Yerach's comment, and it made me smile because he's been watching Ice Road Truckers, which is so funny to me because I feel like Yerach is preparing himself mentally for what we're about to experience in the wintertime as we all traverse Winnipeg streets in our vehicles. It's not quite as bad as Ice Road Truckers, but if you wanted a taste of winter,
Those shows are no joke.
they are no joke. It's pretty
Some of the
serious.
stuff that those guys, the people get themselves into, and then those guys get them out. Whew.
Sounds like somebody else has been watching Ice Road Truckers.
Nah, not so much.
Welcome to Earl Barish. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom, Eric Green. Nice to have you here this morning. Good Shabbos to Manju. Welcome. And thank you so much. Shabbat Shalom to Phyllis. And you made it onto the chat this morning, Phyllis. That is so nice to see your name here. Well done. Terry from New York. Welcome. Nice to have you here as well. Good Shabbos, everyone.
If Eric Green is in the house, he's a Kohen. We haven't called him for a while. We need a Kohen Aliyah. So,
Yechezkel, are you up for it this morning? What
Eric,
do you think?
hang around in there. You're the first contestant when the Torah service rolls around.
Okay,
Good.
so let's continue now with Psalm 148.
Little psalm action.
Yes, page 8. Hallelujah et Adonai min hashamayim. Hallelujah bamromim. Hallelujah kol malachav. Hallelujah kol tzepav. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Hallelujah, Shemesh v'Yareyach. Hallelujah, Kol Kochveo. Hallelujah, Shemei HaShamayim ve'amayim asher me'al HaShamayim. Hallelujah, Hallelujah. Hallelujah, Hallelujah, Kol Malakav, Hallelujah, Kol Tzevav, Hallelujah, Hallelujah. And please rise, page 46, words of comfort, the words of the mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal ve'yitgadash shmei Rabba.
Amen.
Belma divirach edute, וימליך מלכותה, וחי יחון ויומחון וחיי דכל בית ישראל, בגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו, אמן. יהא שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ולעולמי עולמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי דקודשה בריחו, לאלה ולאלה, מכל ברכתה ושירתה, ושבחתה ונחמתה, תמירם בעלמא ואמרו אמן. יהא שלום הרב אמין שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום ממרומיו ויעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו
Amen.
amen. You may be seated as we return to page 10. We have a little bit of the Shabbat, Nusach, second paragraph, Shochinat Marom. שוכנת מרום וקדוש שמו.
שוכנת מרום וקדוש שמו.
בפי ישרים תתהלל, ודברי צדיקים תתפארך, ובלשון חסידים תתרומם, ובקרב קדושים תתקדש. Let's see how it fits with the Leila Leila, this one. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה.
Amen.
בעלמא דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי. בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי וכל בית ישראל. בגלה ובזמן קרים ואמרו אמן. יהי שמרה במבורך ועלם ולעולמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל. שמי קודשה בריחו לאלו לעולמים כל ברכתה ושירתה ושבחתה ונחמתה לאמירן בעלמא. ואמרו 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 אמן.
There's been a lot of action on the chat right now between the Kohanim. We have Terry from Toronto is like, hey.
She is, but she's had Aliyot more recently.
And then we've got Jerry Posner out there. He's a Kohen
We threw to him a few weeks back to try and make it happen, and it didn't work.
They
so
are present this morning.
if they want to go up against my memory, they can do it. But I wouldn't show up to a gunfight with a knife.
It's never boring at Congregation Share Zedek in the morning. Things get real quick around here.
If that ain't ecclesiastical wisdom, I don't know what is.
I'm trying to picture that idiom. So it just doesn't.
Have you never heard that expression before? There's all kinds of battle of wits type metaphors and things like that.
Hey, Terry took a stand. She said hineni, okay? She is here.
Yeah, absolutely.
She is.
Look, we got a lot of great Kohanim and for sure. But I was just thinking, I remember that we had tried to get Jerry, and we've had Terry, the HIS sibling, and so I figured a little Eric Green action. So
there you go. Well, we'll see if Eric turns back up.
I'm a Kohen too. Eric I could just take it for myself. Maybe next time I'll just take it for myself.
I don't know. Maybe we should have a Kohen party for the first Aliyah and just throw them all in there.
A Kohen party?
It's cool. And if they complain, we just
Very
block
good.
them from the chat, and that's it.
Very good. Right.
Okay. So let's continue now with the Baruch. It's time to bless the name of God, the source of all blessing. Page 12, please rise. Baruchu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam yotzer or You may be seated. Page 13. We are going to continue with the second blessing before the recitation of the Shema Israel. Beautiful prayer asking God to illuminate our lives so we can actually see the path clearly. That's one of the problems why we stumble, why we fall, because we cannot see what is in front of us. So we are asking God to send us the right type of light. This is very interesting, something that I learned the past few weeks. Now that we are all some kind of working from home, I'm teaching a lot from home, and I got new set of lights for my streaming. And then you realize that not every light is the same, right? Some light is very good for people, but then I needed to eliminate some shadows behind me, and then you have to diffuse the light. So there are different qualities of lights. So life is exactly the same. There are some lights that is the right light, and there are some other lights that actually will make things worse. So we are asking God to send our way the light of Torah, so we can clearly see the path. We can clearly see the whole picture the way God sees the whole picture. Page 13. Ve'ereinu. Ve'ereinu Betoratecha Betoratecha V'dabek libeinu B'mitzvotecha B'mitzvotecha Ve'ereinu V'toratecha V'toratecha V'dabek libeinu V'mitzvotecha V'mitzvotecha V'yachet levavenu le'ava u'lidat et shemecha ve'lo nevash le'olam va'ed ve'lo nevash le'olam קודשך הגדול והנורא בדקנו נגיעה ונשמחה בישועתך בתורתך, בתורתך, ודבק ליבנו, מצוותיך, ומצוותיך. ברוך אתה אדוני, הבוחר בעמו ישראל, באהבה. Let's continue on page 14, Shema Israel. Let's bring a little joy to this Shema Israel. We're going to sing a different version. We haven't done it in a while, where we go faster and faster. And I believe this version of the Shema Israel is the perfect expression that the joy that brings our connection with our Creator. Give yourself the opportunity to connect with your Creator through these beautiful words. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord Adonai is one. Page 14. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. 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 You can open your eyes now. Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Come on. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. 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 Page 15, Ve'ahavta. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך. ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך שוכבך וקומך. וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. Please continue silently, bottom of page 15, page 16, and top of page 17. Adonai Elohechem Emet. Page 17, Mi Kamocha. Mi Kamocha Ba'elim Adonai, Mi Kamocha Nedar B'Kodesh, Nora Tehilot, Osef Mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai, Mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, Nora tehilot, osef eleh. Shira chadasha, shibchu geolim leshimcha,
Adonai Imloch le'olam va'ed. Mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, Nora tehilot osef eleh. Please rise. Tzur Israel, kuma be'ezrat Israel, uvdechinu mecha Yehuda be'Israel, u'aleinu Adonai tzvaot shemo, kedosh Israel. Mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, Nora tehilot osef eleh. Baruch atah Adonai, Gal Israel. Let's continue now with the Shabbat Amidah on page 18. And we have to be careful because we have some things that we have to add because it's Shabbat Shuva. For those who came late, I have to repeat it because I said this at the very beginning of the service. This is the Shabbat in between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. It's called Shabbat Shuva. It's a special Shabbat. The Shabbat of the return. It's another opportunity to get ready for Yom Kippur. But during these 10 days we have between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, there are certain things that we add to the Amidah. It's almost like a few highlights from the High Holidays liturgy were incorporated into every Amidah of the week. Mm-hmm. The problem is on Shabbat we use different melodies than the High Holidays, so sometimes it's challenging to go back and forth. But because we love you so much, we're going to do our best. So page 18, let's start singing the Amidah together. And then again, like every time, you have an open invitation to continue with the Hebrew, the English, or your own words of prayer. Page 18. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei avoteinu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות, ומביא גואל לבני בניהם, למען שמו ואהבה. זוכרנו לחיים, מלך החפץ וחיים, וכותבנו בספר החיים, למענך אלוהים חיים. מלך חוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה, אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחי מתים אתה, רב להושיע מוריד הטל. מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיים
מתים ברחמים רבים סומך נופלים ורופא חולים ומתיר אסורים ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומי דומה לך מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה מי כמוך ברחמים זוכר יצודיו לחיים ורחמים ונאמנתה לחיות מתים ברוך אתה אדוני מחיה המתים נקדש את שמך בעולם כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום ככתוב על יד נביאך וקרא זה אל זה ואמר קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות מלוא כל הארץ כבודו אחז וקול רעש גדול אדיר וחזק משמיעים קול מתנסים לעומת שרפים לעומתם ברוך יאמרו ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומך מלכנו תופיע ותמלוך עלינו כמחכים אנחנו לך מתי תמלוך בציון וקרוב וימינו לעולם ועד תשכון תתגדל ותתקדש בתוך ירושלים עירך לדור ודור ולנצח נצחים ונהנו תרינה מלכותך כדבר אמור בשירי עוזך על ידי דוד משיח צדקך ימלוך אדוני לעולם אלוהי ציון לדור ודור הללויה לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים, ולנצח נצחים, קדישתך, קדישתך נקדיש, ושמך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש, לעולם לעולם ועד לדור ודור לדור ודור לדור ודור נגיד גודלך לדור ודור לדור ודור לדור ודור נגיד גודלך כי אל מלך גדול גדול וקדוש גדול וקדוש אתה כי אל מלך גדול, גדול וקדוש, גדול וקדוש אתה. ברוך אתה אדוני, המלך הקדוש. Please continue silently. the High Holidays version of the Kaddish Shalem could be found on page 32. יתגדל ויתקדש מרבב
Amen.
בעלמא דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי
מלכותי.
בחייכון וביום אחד ובחיי כל בית ישראל בעגלה ובזמן קריב
Vehimeru.
ויאמרו
Amen.
יש
מרבה מבורך לעולם ולעולמי המאיה יתברך.
יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל
שמי דקודשה
שמי דקודשה בריחו לאלה ולאלה מכל ברכתה ושירתה
ושירתה
תושבחתה ונחמתה תעמידה בעלמא
בעלמא
תושבחתה ונחמתה תעמידה בעלמא תעמידה בעלמא ויאמרו תתקבל צלותיהן ואותון דכל ישראל קדם אבוון דבשמיא ויאמרו ויאמרו
Amen.
ישלם הרבי בשמיא וחיים עלינו עלינו וכל ישראל ויאמרו ויאמרו עושה שלום במרומיו ויעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ויאמרו אמן אמן
Yasher Koach.
ברוך
Very
אתה
nice.
יהי.
That is such a fun melody. It's
Very
just
nice.
beautiful.
Yeah. Yet another reason to get excited about the high holidays.
That's right. There's been a lot going on the chat, you know.
People are very chatty.
People are very chatty this morning, which is wonderful. Shabbat Shalom to Priscilla Kerr. Josua Yoselva wants to let you know that shadows are nice and artistic, so don't be afraid of a few shadows. Leon has a comment for Rabbi Matthew, but it's out of context now. He said, not really gone if we can find a way to remember. Welcome to Pearl Rosenberg. Good Shabbos to you as well. Roberto, Shabbat Shalom. Marilyn Pearl, Shabbat Shalom to you and Michael. Evelyn Hecht, welcome here from the lake. Shabbos, good Shabbos to you as well. Thelma Suris has arrived. Shabbat Shalom to Thelma. And then there's a lot about feet happening, which is what's distracting me as I'm reading. Alan and Gloria Cantor, welcome and Shabbat Shalom. There's been a lot going on about the feet. I feel underqualified to address myself. There's a lot about foot washing, kohanim, leviim, bill washing feet. Thelma's wondering if she's arrived at a podiatrist convention. If any rabbis feel equipped to handle this at this moment, I'm going to pass the mic over to you. What is it with the Judaism and the washing of the feet?
That's just
And the hands.
And the hand, well,
Just
I'm
an old-
hand washing.
a throwback.
Actually, if you go to the Jewish cemetery, you will see that on the tombstones of the Leviim, you will see a picture engraved on the stone. And some people said, oh, that's why there is a picture there. It's because the Leviim used to wash the Kohanim feet and hands.
Oh.
And
before
that's
they
why.
would go in to do the
and
sacrifice stuff.
And then the Kohanim in the tombstones, you can see their hands.
That's right.
So, yeah.
Thank you. There we go. We needed a rabbi.
So there is no convention of anything going on here.
The last probably kind of shul, like vestige of that ritual would have been shuls where they did duchenin.
Yeah.
Right, where the Kohanim would leave, like during the reader's repetition of the Amidah, coming up on, Yevarechecha, we often do Yevarecha. So like the Kohanim would all assemble on the bima, and they would all kind of throw the talesim over their heads and get their hands in the position that inspired Leonard Nimoy with Spock, right? Universally famous, and bless the whole congregation. But before they could do that, they have to be, pure, clean, good to go, cleanliness close to godliness. So they would go out of the sanctuary, and Leviim would go out too. And Bill, did you ever do that? Bill says he did that twice in his life. I never, as a Kohen, I've never duched. I don't remember the last time they did it here. They certainly weren't doing it in the 90s when Leslie and I were bar mitzvah and bat mitzvah age, coming to services and high holidays and stuff. So it predates me.
They used to do it in my former shul for Yom Kippur because they tried to do this kind of service that it wouldn't stop from morning till evening.
Right.
So they will do pretty much everything that is in the Machzor, including the Avodah and the special blessing for the Kohanim. Yeah, I've seen it.
So I guess that would be kind of, because this calls back to the Mishkan and the Beit HaMikdash and sacrifices and things that just are so hard for us to relate to. But there are enough people who still remember probably Duchen, and particularly if you're from a Kohen family. I mean, it was a badge of honor, right? And Leviim too, to go out, everyone would see them go out, everyone would see them come in. So I'm told. And now you're going to see a bunch of people talking about Duchen maybe. But yeah, well, Jerry's one of the guys on the chat. We'll keep the chat going during the Torah service, but maybe we should, I can't come up with a clever wordplay on Duchen. So why don't we just continue?
Yeah. Torah service, page 33. Please rise if you can.
Oh, hang on.
Yeah, you have to get out of bed for that. Thank you. Vayehi binso Aharon, vayomer Moshe, Kuma Adonai, ויפוצו אויביך, וינוסו משנאיך מפניך. כי מציון תצא תורה, כי מציון תצא תורה, ודבר אדוני מירושלים. ברוך שנתן תורה תורה, ברוך שנתן תורה תורה לעמו ישראל בקדושתו. Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu, Ga'adol Adoneinu, Ga'adol Shemo.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adoneinu, Kadosh Shemo.
Gadelul Adonai iti, uneromemha Shemo yachdav. Lecha Adonai הגדולה והגבורה והתפארת והנצח וההוד, כי כל בשמיים ובארץ, כל בשמיים ובארץ, אדוני הממלכה והמתנשא לכל ראש. רוממו,
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 אדוני אלוהינו, והשתחוו,
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 לאדון רגליו קדוש הוא רוממו,
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 רוממו.
אדוני אלוהינו, והשתחוו,
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 והשתחוו.
להר קודשו, כי קדוש, כי קדוש, אדוני אלוהינו.
Yasher Koach, Rabbi. And Yasher Kochech, Leslie. Beautiful job. To leading both of you, leading us through Shachrit. Wonderful.
Thank you. Yasher Koach, Rabbi Matthew. It's great to have you on the keys.
Thanks. It's fun. Wanted to make sure I could keep an eye on the chat during the Torah reading so that people can continue doing what Rabbi Anibal was talking about. Participating. Joining in our service. This Torah reading, well, there's a lot of room for thought. Let me tell you a little bit of something about our Torah reading today. Haazinu, which is almost always, not always, almost always, the parsha we read between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur on Shabbat Shuva. Some years, when the calendar's kind of funny, there's a change, but usually it's Haazinu, which for the most part contains something called the Song of Moses. That makes up the majority of today's parsha, the Song of Moses, Shirat Moshe. And then there's the part at the end, which I kind of think is a little more interesting, gets us back to the story. But the Song of Moses is, well, it's complicated, and it makes this, in my opinion, maybe the most complicated reading in the entire Torah. And I'm not afraid to admit it. After all these years, I've decided, I was saying this morning to my wife, that this is my least favorite of all of the parshiot in the Torah. I'm coming out and saying it, and it's because of the language and the difficulty of reading this song. Not to mention the subject matter. The subject matter is a whole other layer, because these words that we're about to read today, they're different from the rest of the Torah. They really are. They're laid out differently from the rest of the Torah. I'm not sure if we can get that kind of shot in the Hagbah. Maybe you've seen it before. But if you know what the inside of the Torah looks like, it's got two narrow columns set up like a poem. It's hard to get into a rhythm. It's very short verses. And the vocabulary and the way the sentences and the metaphors, we were talking about metaphors, the language in this poem, in this Song of Moses, is unlike the language anywhere else in the Torah. In fact, it's compared to some other places in the Bible, in the Tanakh, the opening of Isaiah chapter 1, the second chapter in Jeremiah, one of the Psalms, in particular Psalm 50, and even one of the chapters in the book of Micah, the book of Micha. But these are all words, these are from the prophets, or in the case of the Psalm, from the writings, things that come much later than the words of the Torah. And in fact, while a lot of critical scholars can't agree on when this Song of Moses was exactly written, it seems to be pretty unanimous that it was written much later than a lot of what we read in the Torah and then re-added. Kind of interesting, but also part of what makes it seem unfamiliar. And as you're following along, even if you're following in the English, the language, the expressions, even the general angry tone, there are angry spots in the Torah. God gets angry. There's no denying that. But there's something about this poem that just doesn't fit. And all these years of me reading it, I don't know about you, Leslie, but it never quite sticks. It's very, very complicated. Wouldn't you agree with that?
No. Well, when I first learned it, it was tricky.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Now it has like a rhythm and a cadence to it. I wonder if you'll hear it when I read.
After how many years, though?
7 years at the Minyan, a short break, and now back again.
Right, so it takes a few years to get into it. It's a very tricky reading. And there's a few other spots I can point out along the way. But the general gist of this poem is that Moses is the speaker, even though Moses is never mentioned in the song, bringing the words of God. If the context is that God called Moshe and Yehoshua into the tent and said, look, years down the road, the people are going to mess up. They've proven it to us by now. They're going to follow other gods. They're going to forget everything you're teaching them today. It's going to be a disaster. And I want this poem that you're about to write down and teach them, I want this poem to serve as a witness to them for their actions when they go astray. So that's the idea. And at the very beginning of the poem, Haazinu, which comes from Ozen, listen up, the speaker, God is calling on the heavens and the earth to be witnesses, almost like a prophetic lawsuit, sometimes it's described as, before all of the people, because this song is going to stand in judgment against them down the line when they go astray. Which is why a lot of people think it was written after something like the Babylonian invasion and exile to justify and make sense of the fact that things had gone south for them, like a lot of the book of Deuteronomy and Devarim. But we can get into that at a different time. The idea here is that it's very rhythmic, it's very regular, 2 lines, it comes in 2 lines. Every thought is expressed twice. My words come down like rain, my words come down like dew. Back-to-back lines. I call on the heavens, I call on the earth. All the way through, there's a formula to it. And yes, you'll see that once you get yet several years under your belt, you can get a little bit of a rhythm, but it is a tough reading. Point out a couple of things along the way as we go, but let's get into it now. Leslie's going to start reading for us. Our first aliyah, if you have the Etz Chaim printout from our website, is page 1185. If you're following in any other chumash, we're in Deuteronomy, Devarim, chapter 32, verses 1 through 6 for our first of 7 aliyot. 6 aliyot from the song, and then a 7th aliyah to kind of wrap everything up and get us back to the story. We mentioned that Eric Green is going to be our Kohen aliyah today. We didn't have time to get him on, so we'll recite the blessings on his behalf. Follow along with us. It's great to have you, Eric. Amen. Hakol v'godel Eloheinu tenu chavol Torah yamod Yecheskel ben Beryl HaKohen udvora l'aliyah rishona Baruch shenatan tromo Yisrael b'kedushato ve'atem madvekim Adonai Elohechem chaim kulchem hayom Baruch et Adonai hamvorach
Baruch Adonai Amvarach Leolam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai Vorach Leolam Vaed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol hamim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Haazinu hashamayim v'adabera v'tishma haaretz imrei fi. Yarov kamatar likhi tizal katal himrati kesirim ale deshe v'chirvivim ale hesev ki shem Adonai ekra avu godel Eloheinu atzur tamim palo ki kol drachav mishpat el emunah ve'en avel tzadik v'yashar hu shichet lo vanav mumam Dori keshuv taltol, al Adonai tigmelu zot, amnava velo chacham, alohu avicha kanecha, uasecha vichoneneka.
Asher kochech. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tocheinu. Baruch atah Adonai noten hadonah Torah.
Amen.
Wonderful reading. Leslie, you can see, definitely has that reading down. But if you're following along in the Hebrew or the English, you have to be taken, and you'll continue to be taken by just how unfamiliar these kinds of words and these expressions are if you've been with us and following Torah on a regular basis, like I know most of you are. And a yasher koach to our impromptu, spontaneous Kohen this morning, Eric Green.
Yasher
Great to
koach,
have you.
Eric.
Thanks, Eric. A Shana Tova to you as well. Morley Rip is our second honoree as we move on to Sheni, our second aliyah. Morley this morning is commemorating a yortzeit coming up of Bert Siegel, his father-in-law. And the reading will continue with Leslie chanting for us again, page 1186. We begin now with verse 7, continuing through verse 12. Verse 7 is one of the most interesting verses in this whole song for me in terms of understanding that it just doesn't feel like something Moses could have written. Remember the days of old, consider the years of ages past. Ask your father, he will inform you. Your elders, they will tell you. This is only the second generation since the Exodus. What do they need to be remembering days of past? It's been 40 years. This is not the kind of, this is something that looks forward into the future. This is when the Exodus and Sinai are distant memories, and you have to ask the 98-year-olds or the 103-year-olds at the back of the sanctuary to tell them the stories of when there was the Spanish flu in 1918 and stuff like that. That's how I read this. Very curious line to me. Let's hear how it sounds in the Hebrew as Leslie continues for us again. It's 1186, or chapter 32 for today, so I'll just give you the verses 7 through 12. Is Morley joining us on Zoom? No. I'm honored to do the blessings on his behalf. Yamod Moshe ben Yosel Alevi v'Rivka Lali hashniya Baruch et Adonai hamvorach
Baruch Adonai Baruch Leolam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Leolam Vaed Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol hamim v'natan lanu et Torato Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Zechor yemot olam binu shenot dor vador she'al avicha ve'agedcha ziknecha vayomru lach v'anchel elyon goyim behafrido b'nei adam yatzev gevulot amim lemispar b'nei Yisrael ki chelek Adonai imo Yaakov chevel nachalato Yimtza'ehu beretz midbar uvtohu yelel yeshimon Yisovevenu yevohonenehu yitzrenu kishoneno Kenesher yair kino al gozalav yerachef Yifros knafav yikachehu Yisa'ehu al evrato Adonai badad yanchenu Einimo el nechar.
Share kochech, Leslie. Beautiful readings this morning.
Thank you.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Yasher koach also to Morley Rip, our honorary second honoree this morning. Morley, Shabbat Shalom, and also Shana Tova U'Mituka to you and your family. I'm seeing folks like Eric and Morley and all of you in Shul, people we're used to seeing on a regular basis. Hard to believe it's been over 6 months now.
We've gained this international congregation, though. I'd like to welcome Donna Sarah. She's arrived from Los Angeles this morning. Thank you so much for joining us. And Jiku, he had the longest virtual distance to travel from India, I believe, this morning. And it's likely evening by now. So welcome, Jiku. Good Shabbos to you as well.
The longest virtual distance to travel. I like that. I like that.
I like to imagine everybody getting here, you know? They all got here somehow. They found us this morning.
I forgot I don't have to bring up my my computer. Everything is so new now. People keep asking me, as we make the transition here, so I will tell you. People have been asking me a lot if these high holidays and everything have been weird. And my answer has been, well, I don't know. I would ask like Anibal and I would ask Leslie, has it been weird for you? Gotta be, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
It feels less weird for me because of all those years that I was on the radio, where you're used to not seeing anybody and you've got like screens and everything like that.
I could see that.
It's a little weird having to look at cameras and stuff. But
it's the lack of having my daughters running around or like next to me, you know. But we made moments happen. I really appreciated shofar in the car. I know a lot of you came out for that, you Winnipeggers, and it was a good chance to kind of connect with each other and connect with our families in a different way. And thank you so much. I know one of our shofar blowers is here on the chat this morning. Thank you all so much for making that happen for so many.
Let's continue with our Torah reading. I'm honored to step up here and try my hand at reading more of the Song of Moses. Shlishi is next. Page 1187 is where we continue. The third reading covers verses 13 through 18, where again I'll just highlight that there's some language that really makes it seem like they've already settled in the land of Canaan. I know you could argue that it's kind of forecasting ahead, but it's not written in future tense. It's written in past tense like it's already happened. All these little curiosities about the song. Every year when we get to it, I'm always reminded just how complicated and yet so fascinating this reading really is. Roberta Cantor is our third honorary honoree this morning. Leslie will chant the blessings on her behalf. Roberta is accepting this honor this morning in recognition of a very special birthday. And we're thrilled to have her celebrate along with all of us. Ta'amod Rachel bat David veto Lalia hashlishit
Baruch hu et Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Vorach Leolam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Leolam Vaed. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Ata Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Yarkivehu al bahamotei aretz, vayuchal tnuvot sadai, vayenikehu devash misela v'shemen mechal mishsur, chemat bakar, v'chalev tzon, im chalev karim, Belim b'nei vashan v'atudim, im chalev kilyor chita, v'damenav tishtechamer, Vayishman Yeshurun Vayivat Shamanta Vita Kasita Vayito Shelo Ha'asahu Vayinabel Tzur Yeshuato Yakniuhu Bezarim Betoevod Yachisuhu Yizbechu Lashedim Lo Eloha Elohim Lo Yedaum Chadashim Mikerev Ba'u Mikarov ba'u lo serum avotechem, sur yeladecha teshi, vatishkach el mecholelecha.
Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah temet, v'chaye olam nata betochenu. Baruch Ata Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Yasher koach, Roberta. Happy birthday.
Roberta, this one's for you. Misha Beirach, Avotenu Aram Yitzchak V'Yakov Sarivka Rachel V'Leah, Hu Yevarech, Et Rachel Bat David V'Ita, She'alta Hayom Lichvod HaMakom V'Lichvod HaTorah V'Lichvod HaShabbat, Ulhodot al kol hachasadim asher gamala Elohim miyom hivaldad hayom hazeh HaKadosh Baruch Hu yishmor ota v'kol mishpachta v'yishlach bracha v'tzlacha b'chol ma'aseh yadeha im kol Yisrael acheya v'nomar amen.
Amen.
May God who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah, bless Roberta Cantor, who has come for an aliyah this morning with reverence for God and respect for the Torah and the Shabbat, grateful to God for this gift of life which she has enjoyed until today. May the Kadosh Baruch Hu, the Holy One, blessed be God, bless you, Roberta, with length of years, with good health, with the pleasures of Torah study, and with the profound satisfaction that comes from a life of Maasim Tovim, good deeds. In celebrating this and other birthdays, may your example remind us. People may count the days of their life, but a person of wisdom makes every day count. And let us all say, Amen. Simin tovu, mazel tovu, mazel tov, simin tov, simin tovu, mazel tovu, mazel tov, simin tov, simin tovu, mazel tovu, mazel tov, simin tov, yehelanu, 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 ulecho Yisrael, yehelanu, yehelanu, ulecho Yisrael. Yehelanu, Yehelanu, ulecho Yisrael. Yehelanu, Yehelanu, ulecho Yisrael. Ad mea ve'asrim, as we say, 220, Yom Huledet Sameach, Roberta. Happy birthday, Mazel Tov, and again, Yasher Kochach. Had a few opportunities to call Roberta the Torah. It's great to have another simcha, something to celebrate, so thanks again. And I hope you like your birthday singing today, because we have 3 more birthday aliyot coming. What great simchas during today's Torah service as we continue with Rivi E, our 4th of our 7 readings this morning, page 1189, if you're following in the Etz Chaim Chumash, or you've got chapter 32, verses 19 through 28. Shali Chachanov is our next honoree and our next birthday celebrator. We call her up next. Tamohori Teresa Bat Binyamin Venachama Lalia Harvit.
Baruch hu et Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach l'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bacha banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Vayar Adonai vayinatz mikas panav uvnotav vayomer asti rafanai mehem erem achritam ki dor tapuchor hema banim lo emun bam hem kinuni veloel ki asuni behavlehem vani akniem veloam begoinaval achisem ki esh kadcha ve'api Vatikar ad sheol tachtit, vatochal eretz vivula, vatelahed boste harim, aspe alei moraot, chitzai achalebam, mezera, v'chume reshef, v'ketev meriri, v'shen behemot ashalach bam, im chamad zochalei afahar, michutz tishakel cherev, u'michararim ema, gam bachor, gam betulaha, yonek, im ish sevaha, Amarti afehem ashpita meinosh sichraham lule kas oyev agur peninakrut saremo penyomru yadenu rama v'lo Adonai pal kol zot ki goy ovad etzod hema ben bahem tvuna.
Natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu, Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah.
Amen.
Happy birthday and Yasher Koach, Shelley, and Yasher Koach to Rabbi Matthew. That was a tricky reading. You got everything down.
Oh, right on. Thank you. And to Shelley, so nice to offer you this blessing. I know we had an aliyah on Yontif, but it's great to be able to give you this Misha Berach in honor of your birthday as well. Here we go. Misha Berach, Avoteinu Avram Yitzchak v'Yakol, Sarif Garachel v'Leha, Hu Yevarech, Erita Reza Bat Binyamin v'Nachama, She'alta Hayom Lichvod HaMakom v'Lichvod, HaTorah v'Lichvod, HaShabbat, Ulehodod al Kol HaChasadim Asher Gamala Elohim, Miyom Hivaldad Hayom Hazeh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yishmor Otav et Kol Mishpachta, Vishlach Bracha v'Tzlacha b'Chol Masei Yadeya, Im Ko Yisrael Acheya v'Nomar, Amen. May God who blessed our ancestors, Avraham, Yitzhak, Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah, bless Shelley Chachanoff, who has come for an aliyah this morning with reverence for God and respect for the Torah and the Shabbat, grateful to God for the gift of life which she has enjoyed until this day. Shelley, may the Kadosh Baruch Hu, the Holy One, blessed be God, bless you with good health, with length of years, with the pleasures of Torah study, and with the profound satisfaction that comes from a life of Ma'asim Tovim, good deeds. In celebrating this and other birthdays, may your example remind us, people may count the days of their life, but a person of wisdom makes every day count. And let us all say, Amen. Simen Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Simen Tov, Simen Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Simen Tov, Simen Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Simen Tov, Yehelanu, 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 Ulecho Yisrael, Yehelanu, Yehelanu, Ulecho Yisrael, Yehelanu, Yehelanu, Ulecho Yisrael, Yehelanu, Yehelanu, Ulecho Yisrael. Thanks for joining us this morning, Shelley. Ad Mea Ve'asrim, Yom Huledet Sameach, Mazel Tov, Yasher Kochech again. Many happy returns. Hope your birthday is a great one.
Thank you. Working on it.
Good. Good to hear you too. We'll continue in a moment with Chamishi, our fifth Aliyah this morning. If you're following along with the Etz Chaim, it's page 1190 where we begin. This fifth Aliyah covers verses 29 through 39. What's really interesting about the song is the whole idea is, I mentioned this idea of a lawsuit. It's supposed to stand witness, this song, against Bnei Israel. God is charging them, and what's the charge? Disloyalty. Remember all the things I did for you when I was like the eagle bringing you along through the wilderness, all these great things, and look at what you've done. Look at what you've done. That's the tone, right? Look at what you've done. But what's amazing here is towards the end, God pivots. God pivots. There's this assumption that Bnei Israel they've already paid for their actions. They've already gotten that. But God doesn't want the enemies of Bnei Israel to start thinking that they can get away with maybe attacking Bnei Israel. So what's going to happen here is God's pivoting, and instead of continuing through on this idea of punishing Bnei Israel, he's going to turn and actually punish Bnei Israel's enemies. And that's where this Song of Moses is headed now. Let's see. Chamishi again is verses 29 through 39. Our third and our next birthday celebrator is another one of our Shabbat morning regulars. Miss her too. Talked to her on the phone a little while ago. I haven't seen her in a while. Beverly Zatzer. But I don't think she's joining us to do the blessings. So it's us. So Leslie will do it on her behalf. That's just like Beverly. She wouldn't want too much attention, but Beverly, we're going to give you a special blessing for your birthday anyway. And so we wish you a special Aliyah here coming up. Tamod, bracha bat Gershon Leah, Aliyah HaChamishit.
Beverly, I'm picturing you in my mind's eye. It's so good to be with you this morning.
Baruch et Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Vorach Leolam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Leolam Vaed. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam. Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Ata Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Luchachbu yaskilu zot yavinu leacharitam echa yirdof echad elef ushnayim yanisu rivava im lo kitzura micharam v'Adonai iskiram ki lo chetzurenu tzuram v'oivenu plilihim ki migefen stom gafnam umishadmod amora anavemo inverosh ashkelot merorot lamo chamat taninim yenam verosh petanim achzahar halohu kamus imadi chatum beotzrotai li nakam veshilehem le'tamud raglam ki karov yomedaham v'chesh atidod lamo v'chesh atidod lamo ki yadin Adonai amoho ve'alavadav yinecham ki yireh ki azlat yad ve'efes atzur ve'azuv ve'amar Elohemo tzur chasayuvo asher chelev zevachemo yochelu ishtu yenesicham yakumu v'yazruchem yihi alechem sitra ru'ata ki ani hu v'en Elohim imadi ani amid v'chayem achatzti v'ani erpaha v'en miyadi matzil.
Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata betochenu Baruch Ata Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Misheberach Avotenu Avram Yitzchak v'Yaakov Sar Rivka Rachel v'Leah Hu yevarech et bracha bat Gershon v'Leah שעלתה היום לכבוד המקום ולכבוד התורה ולכבוד השבת ולהודות על כל החסדים אשר גמלה אלוהים מיום היוולדת היום הזה. הקדוש ברוך הוא ישמור אותה ואת כל משפחתה, וישלח ברכה והצלחה בכל מעשה ידיה. עם כל ישראל אחיה ונאמר Amen. For Beverly Zatzer, our birthday honoree with this aliyah, we say, may God who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah, bless Beverly, who has come for an aliyah this morning with reverence for God and respect for the Torah and Shabbat, grateful to God for the gift of life which she has enjoyed until this day. Beverly, may the Kadosh Baruch Hu, the Holy One, blessed be God, bless you with length of years and with good health, with the pleasures of Torah study, and with the profound satisfaction that comes from a life of Ma'asim Tovim, a life committed to good deeds. In celebrating this and other birthdays, may your example continue to remind us. People may count the days of their life, but a person of wisdom makes every day count. And let us all say, Amen. Third time. Simin tovu, mazel tovu, mazel tov, simin tov, mazel tovu, mazel tov, simin tov, mazel tovu, mazel tov, simin tov. Yehelanu, 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 ulecho Yisrael. Yehelanu, yehelanu, ulecho Yisrael. Yehelanu, yehelanu, ulecho Yisrael. Yehelanu, yehelanu, ulecho Yisrael.
Happy birthday, Beverly. All the very best.
Ad 120, 220. Many happy returns of the day, Beverly. Have yourself a great birthday, and we hope to see you again, like everyone else, very soon. We continue on with Shishi, which is our 6th Torah reading, but our final reading of the song this morning, and our final birthday celebration. I'll tell you why, after this aliyah and its birthday blessing, why the last line of the song is both the most disappointing and the most intriguing. But first, we call our 4th birthday celebrator. But why we can't get him from the back, I don't know. It's Marvin Polanski, our audio-visual director, who does an amazing job every week, who did an amazing job during the high holidays. His birthday's coming up too, but he wanted us to do the blessing. Aye.
He's got his hands full back there, but we're so lucky to have you, Marvin. Happy birthday, and thank you for being here with us all the time, making the magic happen.
It's true.
He preferred us to do it because he doesn't like what the sound guy does to his voice. So.
This reading covers verses 40 through 43, the end of the song. Page 1192 is where we begin, and as we mentioned, our honoree is Marvin Polanski. Yamod Chaim Meir ben David v'Sara l'aliyah hashishit.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai hamvorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Leolam Vaed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim V'natan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Ki esai el shamayim yadi. Ve'amarti chaynochi leolam im shanoti berak harbi v'tochez b'mishpat yadi ashiv nakam letzarahai v'lim sanai ashalem ashkir chitzai midam v'charbi tochal basar midam chalal v'shivya merosh parod oyev Harninu goyim amo, ki dam avadav yakum, v'nakam yashiv letzarav, v'chiper admato amo.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah temet, v'chayei olam nata betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Marvin, you're getting some love on the chat. I don't know if you can see it. We're going to offer this blessing to you as well. Misha Beirach, Avoteinu Bar Mitzvah, Yaakov, Sarif Garachel V'Leah, Hu Yivarech, Et Chaim Meir Ben Aviv Sarah, She'Allah Hayom Lichvod HaMakom V'Lichvod HaTorah V'Lichvod HaShabbat, Ulehodor Al Kol HaChasadim Asher Gamalo Elohim Miyom Hivadar Hayom Hazeh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Yishmor Oto V'Kol Mishpachto, V'Yishlach Bracha V'Tzlacha B'Chol Masei Yadav, Im Kol Yisrael Echa V'Nomar, Amen. May God, who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah, bless you, Marvin, who has come for an aliyah this morning with reverence for God and respect for the Torah and Shabbat, grateful to God for the gift of life which you've enjoyed until this day. May the Kadosh Baruch Hu, the Holy One, blessed be God, continue to bless you with length of years and good health, with the pleasures of Torah study, and with the profound satisfaction that comes from a life of Maasim Tovim, good deeds. In celebrating this and other birthdays, may your example continue to remind us. People may count the days of their life, but a person of wisdom makes every day count. And let us all say, Amen. Simin tov u'mazel tov u'mazel tov v'simin tov. Simin tov u'mazel tov u'mazel tov v'simin tov. Simin tov u'mazel tov u'mazel tov v'simin tov. Yehi lanu, yehi lanu, yehi lanu, u'lecha Yisrael. Yehi lanu, yehi lanu, u'lecha Yisrael. Yehi lanu, u'lecha Yisrael. Yehi lanu, u'lecha Yisrael. Thanks again, Marvin, for everything you do for us all the time. And a special happy birthday to you at Me'av Esrim, Mazel Tov, and Yasher Koach.
Happy birthday, Marvin.
We'll hit our final reading in just a second, Shvi Maftir. We're done with the Song of Moses, and we get a little recap as brings us back to the story in quite dramatic fashion. Moses is told exactly how he will die. And he's reminded of that sin from when he smacked the rock when he should have talked to it. And God says how he didn't, Moses blew it because he didn't sanctify along with his brother God's name. That's the reason. He gets to see the land from Har Nevo, but that is where he will die. And it's amazing in this language here, God and Moshe, their relationship, that God actually commands Moshe to die. So we'll see that in a second. But I mentioned to you, quick payoff, why that last line of the song is so disappointing and so fascinating. It's supposed to call back to the first line. It starts with this verb, harninu, that calls back to Haazinu. The poem opened with the heavens and earth being summoned, listen up, witnesses to what I'm about to say. But here it says, harninu goyim amo. And the translation in the English, O nations acclaim. What's really, really interesting, it's very confusing. The translation doesn't make a lot of sense. It doesn't follow the pattern that's been established through the entire song of two ideas for every thought and repeating verse. It doesn't follow it here at all. And the critical scholars figured out that actually the original poem got tweaked here at the end, possibly because there was a metaphor about God and a divine council of lesser gods, which would have made sense to the other nations of the time, but maybe not so much in Israelite and early Jewish thought. So they tweaked it. And they found other copies of manuscripts that are used to compare against the Torah, like the Dead Sea Scrolls. And I invite you, after Shabbat, to do a little bit of digging. It's not that hard. Look up this verse, and you'll find some places where they've reconstructed what the verse actually should have been, and it makes so much more sense and brings the whole poem to a conclusion. This way, it's disappointing because it doesn't really end making a lot of sense. Don't take my word for it. Check it out. So, just thought you'd like that. I found it very fascinating. Now we get to our last reading, and let's get to it. Leslie has been doing the blessings on behalf of a lot of people, but now we're going to call Leslie because she is our maftir this morning, our haftarah reader for Shabbat Shuva. And you can follow this final Torah reading, wrapping things up for Parshat Haazinu, page 1193 in the Etz Chaim printout. In any Chumash, it's chapter 32 here in Deuteronomy, verses 44 through 52. Tamohod Shoshana bat Leah Malka, Maftirach Izki.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Amvorach Leolam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai hamvorach leolam vaed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Vayavo Moshe vayidaber kol divrei hashira zot beoznei ha'am hu veHoshea bin Nun vayechal Moshe lidaber kol advarim ha'ele el kol Yisrael vayomer aleihem simu levavechem v'chol hadvarim asher anochi meid bachem hayom asher titzavu mepneichem lishmor lasod et kol divrei haTorah hazot ki lo davar reiku mikem ki hu chayechem uvadavar hazeh tarichu yamim al ha'adama asher atem ovrim et hayarden shama l'rishtaha vayidaber Adonai el Moshe בעצם היום הזה לאמור הלל הר הברים הזה הר נבו אשר בארץ מואב אשר על פני יריחו ורד ארץ כנען אשר אני נותן לבני ישראל לאחוזה ומות בהר אשר אתה עולה שמה והיאסף אל עמך כאשר מת אהרון אחיך בהור ההר ויאסף אל עמיו על אשר מעלתם בי בתוך בני ישראל במי מריבת קדש מדבר צין על אשר לקדשתם אותי בתוך בני ישראל כי מנגד תרד הארץ ושמה לא תבוא אל הארץ אשר אני נותן לבני ישראל.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Before we get to the Haftarah in just a moment, again, kol hakavod to all of our honorees this morning. Thank you to Shelly Chachnoff for zooming in for Halia as well. And happy birthday, everyone celebrating this morning. To Shelly and to Marvin and to Beverly and to Roberta. Many happy returns of the day to all of you. And a Shabbat Shalom and Shana Tuva U'Mituka to all of our honorees to the Torah this morning. The Haftarah, special Haftarah for Shabbat Shuva, is on page 1235. It's mostly taken from one of the minor prophets, Hosea, and then a few verses from the end of the book of Micah are added. These are the same verses that are added to the end of the book of Yonah in the afternoon of Yom Kippur, and they are the verses that close the book of Micah, but also give us the inspiration for Tashlich. If you happen to see our Tashlich tutorial, the word, in fact, comes from what we will see. If you haven't seen it, it's not too late to check out the Tashlich tutorial and our other great videos on our website, Facebook page, and YouTube channel. It's also the first line, Rabbi Matz reminded me, the first word is where we get the name Shuva. That and, of course, Tshuva. They're connected.
Very nice.
Anyway, we'll get to that in just a second. But first, we invite you to rise wherever you are. Bill Wiseman is going to do Hagban Galila, the lifting and tying of the Sefer Torah. Vezot HaTorah asher sam Moshe lifnei b'nei Yisrael al pi Adonai b'yad Moshe ki mitzion tetzei Torah udvar Adonai miYerushalayim ki mitzion tetzei Torah udvar Adonai miYerushalayim Baruch Shenatan Torah le'amo Yisrael Baruch Shenatan Torah le'amo Yisrael b'kedushato. Please be seated. I didn't give the verses, I realize, if you have your own Chumash. You got to have two places. Hosea, chapter 14, verses 2 through 10. And then Micah, or Micah, chapter 7, verses 18 through 20. It's the Haftarah for Shabbat Shuva. Leslie will chant it for us. It's on page 1235 if you have an Etz Chaim.
Thank
Go
you.
for it.
The tropes I'm going to use are actually the tropes that Rabbi Moss arrived in Winnipeg with. This is me paying homage to you, and it's amazing how far your career has come.
Maybe I can remember them again.
They're beautiful tropes. I love them. So I thought, I'll bring them back today. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nviim tovim v'ratzav v'divreihem hanemarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai habocher b'Torah uv'Moshe avdo uv'Yisrael amo uv'nviei ha'emet v'tzedek.
Amen.
Shuva Yisrael ad Adonai Elohecha ki chashalta bavonecha chu imachem devarim v'shuvu el Adonai imru elav kol tisavon v'kach tov uneshama farim sfatenu ashur lo yoshienu al sus lo nirkav lo nomarod Eloheinu lema'aseh yadeinu asher becha yerucham yatom erpa meshuvatam ohavem nedava ki shavapi mimenu ehyecha Yisrael Yifrach kashoshana v'yachshar ashav kalevanon yelchu yonkotav yihi chazayit hodo v'reach lo kalevanon yashuvu yoshvei v'tzilo echayu dagan V'yifrechu chagafen, zichro ke'yein Levanon. Ephraim malihod la'atzubim. Ani tivashurenu. Ani kivrosh ra'anan. Mimeni peryecha nimtza. Mi chacham v'yaven ele navon v'yedaem ki yesharim darchei Adonai v'tzadikim yelchuvam ufoshim yikashluvam mi'el kamocha Nose avon ve'over ha'pesha lisherit nachalato lo hechezik la'ad apo ki chafetz chesed hu yashuv yerachamenu yichbosh avonotenu ve'tashlich bimsulot yam Kol chatotam titen emet leYaakov chesed l'Avraham
אשר נשבעת לאבותינו מימי קדם.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam tzur kol haolamim tzadik bechol adorot ha'el ha'ne'eman ha'omer ve'oseh ha'medaber u'mekayem shekol devarav emet v'tzedek ne'eman atahu Adonai Eloheinu v'ne'emanim devarecha v'devarecha ad midvarecha Achor lo yashuv rekam, ki el-melech ne'eman v'rachaman atah, baruch atah Adonai.
Baruch hu v'aruch shemo.
Ha'el ha'ne'eman b'kol devarav.
Amen.
Rachem al Tzion ki beit chayenu, v'laluvat nefesh toshia b'mehera v'yameinu. Baruch atah Adonai.
Baruch hu v'aruch shemo.
Mesameach Tzion bevaneha.
Amen.
Samchenu Adonai Eloheinu, Eliyahu hanavi avdecha, u'malchut Beit David meshichecha, b'mehera yavo ve'yagel libenu, al kiso lo yeshev zar, ve'lo yinchalu od acherim et kevodo, כי בשם קודשך נשבעת לו, שלא יכבה נרו לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני.
Baruch hu v'aruch shemo.
מגן דוד.
Amen.
על התורה ועל העבודה ועל הנביאים, ועל יום השבת הזה, שנתת לנו, אדוני אלוהינו, לקדושה ולמנוחה, לששון ותפארת. על הכל, אדוני אלוהינו, אנחנו מודים לך, ומברכים אותך, יתברך שמך בפי כל חי, תמיד לעולם ועד. Baruch atah Adonai.
Baruch hu v'aruch shemo.
Mekadesh HaShabbat.
Amen.
Baruch Tia, thank you.
Yasher kochech, Leslie. Great job with the Haftarah this morning.
Thank you.
Another message reminding us, like Rabbi Mas said at the top, it's not too late to return, to try and get back to the best version of ourselves. I guess we should make the Misha Berach for everyone we know who is sick. And then we can return the Torah to the Ark and get ready to conclude our service with a teaching from Rabbi Mas as well. Leslie, how do you feel about doing the Misha Berach?
I would be honored. Thank you.
I just remember you did such a great job during Yontif that I kind of figure we should build on that.
Beautiful.
Well, if you have anyone you know in need of healing, please do send us their name at this time. We have a list as well. There are many in need. On our list we have Shandel bat Miriam, Leah bat Rachel, Devorah Gitel bat Leah, Binyamin Pinchas ben Devorah Gitel, Nachum Leib ben Leah, Elka bat Chana Leah, Shoshana bat Sarah, Adrian McDonald, Frida bat Regina, Nechama bat Brina, Esther bat Mina, Sarah bat Esther, Yaakov ben Sarah, Atara bat Etel, Shmuel ben Gitel, Stephen Lee, Michael Livshitz, Sheila Streifler, Rachel bat Sonia, Kolkan Fallis, Kazimierz Leschinsky, Aviva bat Malka, Yaakov ben Sion ben Miriam, Danielle ben Tzvia, Isabella bat Sarah, Chaya Zahava bat Leah, Hachazan Shefer ben Miriam, Danielle ben Devorah, Hachazan David ben Chaya Hena, Moshe Aharon ben Leah, Batsheva bat Sarah, the Martinez family, Judy Saip, Dovida bat Shoshana, Olga bat Jinya, and Alexander ben Leah.
We have Brenda Franco,
Amen.
Maribel Cruz,
Amen.
Tzipora bat Chana, Sandy Perman, Israela bat Rachel, Eliezer ben Sarah, Herbert Singer, Carla bat Nancy,
Amen.
I think that's everyone I can see who's been at. Harav Shmuel ben Bracha.
Amen. Sam's list.
Mi sheberach avotenu lekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mi sheberach imotenu lekor habracha leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
Amen. Beautifully done, Leslie. Thank you so much for leading us in that.
Amen.
Thank you.
And thank you to everyone for supplying us with names, for adding names to the chat, or for keeping the names in your minds and your hearts as we make that Misha Berach together. We can now return the Sefer Torah to the Ark. We're on page 41 as we return to our Sidur. Yahalelu.
יהללו את שם אדוני, כי נשגב שמו לבדו. הודו על ארץ ושמיים, בירם קרן לעמו. תהילה, תהילה לכל חסידיו, לבני ישראל עם קרובו. Hallelujah, hallelujah,
Hallelujah.
hallelujah, hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
עץ חיימי למחזיקים בו ותומכיה מאושר דרכיה דרכנו וכל נתיבותיה שלום. השיבנו אדוני אליך ונשובה. קדש ימינו, קדש ימינו, קדש ימינו כקדם.
Pastor Koach, Bill.
Please
Thank
be
you.
seated, everyone. Over to you, Rabbi.
Thank you. Well, Shabbat Shuva, you have to forgive me for whatever joke I bring today. This is about a little boy who was playing on the street. And then there was this rabbi. He was near the town. He was walking on the street as well. He looked kind of lost. Then he approached the little boy and he said, excuse me, can you tell me, please, where is the post office? Oh, the post office, that's very easy. It says 25 meters over there. You can see it from here. The rabbi said, oh, thank you so much. And by the way, I'm the new rabbi in town. if you come to my synagogue, I can actually show you how to go to heaven. And the little kids said, look at the rabbi, said, you? I don't think so. You don't even know where the post office is. So I want to talk to you today about a place to come back to. Very interesting, a place to come back to. And you see, as we mentioned before during this service, we are now in the Aseret Yemei Shuva, in the 10 days of repentance is this period between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Today, Shabbat Shuva, the Shabbat that falls always in between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, an extra special Shabbat. But I was reading about certain traditions that some people take upon themselves during the Aseret Yemei Teshuvah. And I wish I knew about this before so I could share it with you on Rosh Hashanah or even before Rosh Hashanah. And it's that during the Aseret Yemei Teshuvah, people are extra careful the way they observe their Judaisms. Some of the things I remember, I was told before, one of the things that I don't know if it ever happens to you, people don't promise anything during these days. Or if they say something to you, they will immediately say, bli neder, without any formal vow. And it's something that we don't usually say during the rest of the year, but between the Aseret Yemei Teshuvah, we add bli neder. God forbid I would be making a vow. If you think about that, this is something that we have to do all year round. You don't want going around and promising people things that you know that you're not going to fulfill. So we have to be careful about what we say all year round. But during the Aseret Yemei Teshuvah, the tradition is to be extra careful to do that. I also read that some people will be more stringent on their kashrut. You know, even if they drink regular kosher milk during the year, for the 10 days of Teshuvah, they drink what is called Halav Israel, which is a more stringent level of kashrut for the milk. Same thing with bread. They go to level up but it's only for these 10 days. Or some people who, usually they don't go to shul during the year, but during these 10 days, because it's before Yom Kippur, who knows, they attend services every day, or they put tefillin every day for these 10 days in between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And my question is, why bother? What's the point? What's the purpose of doing all these nice things for these 10 days if you know, nevertheless, that immediately after Yom Kippur, little by little, people are going to go back to their old routines, and they're going to stop doing these beautiful things that at the end of the day is what we all want, right? We want to come more to synagogue. We want to put on tefillin. We want to give more tzedakah. Why bother doing it for 10 days if you're not going to do it anymore? Well, this is very interesting because I read something that was wonderful, and there is a connection between this tradition to something that we actually read on Rosh Hashanah. It was part of the Rosh Hashanah Torah reading. And I'm talking about the episode where Abraham sent out of the house. They kicked out of the house to Hagar and Ishmael. Probably heard Rabbi Leibel, he talked about that. But there is an episode where they were about to die in the desert, Hagar and Ishmael, and God goes to their rescue. And it's interesting because it says that God saved them because God heard the voice of the boy since he was there. Lots of interpretation, what it means, that phrase, since he was there, Ba'asher Hayasham. But there is one thing that seems to be the more traditional way to understand that verse, and it is that there is a midrash saying that when God went to rescue Hagar and Ishmael, the angels complained to God. And I said, God, what are you doing? Why are you saving them if you know that in the future Ishmael people are going to bring suffering to the Jewish people in certain historical period, so what are you going to save them now? And God basically said, I don't look into the future, I save them now, because if you look at Ishmael, he's a good boy. He was always next to Abraham, he was very obedient, and there is nothing wrong with Ishmael in that precise moment. So based on the merits of that moment, I'm going to save them. That's one explanation of why it says, since he was there at that precise moment, he was a good boy. Even though after that, he changed his behavior. But I would like to take that midrash one step up. And it's in the sense that we can all be connected to that episode that happened to Ishmael. Because Ishmael was in a good place at that moment. And sometimes in our lives, we go through the same. Sometimes we are, maybe right now, in the Aseret Yemei Teshuvah, during the 10 days of Teshuvah, in a good place, where we do wonderful things. We give more tzedakah, we pray a little more, we are more careful about what we say. But even if in the future we change, because we are already being there, we always have a place to come back to. In fact, the rabbis say that at the end of his life, Ishmael did Shuva. And why? Because he already knew that place. So he also had a place to come back to. So perhaps this idea of doing something different during Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, even knowing that we may change after, always gives us a place to come back to in the future. And I've seen this so many times. One of my favorite things that I've seen around before COVID was to look at the millionaires, right? Many people that for some reason, for different reasons in life, sometimes after retirement, they start coming every day to synagogue. And it's amazing how quickly they remembered things that they learned sometimes 50, 60, even 70 years ago. And back then, they were wondering, why am I learning all this at Hebrew Day School? I will never need this. And then eventually, they come here, they start coming to services, they remember the Torah reading, the Torah blessings, they remember parts of the prayers because they were already there. They have a place to come back to. So it's interesting that sometimes we have to give ourselves the chance to do all these Jewish things, even if it's for a little bit. Because even if we discontinue that tradition, it will always give us a place to come back to. So my message for you today, and my challenge for you today is, maybe you want to start incorporating this beautiful tradition, to do something Jewish before Yom Kippur. Because if after Yom Kippur you forget about it, your soul will never forget it. It's something that sometimes we call, when physical things, we call it muscular memory. It's amazing how much we remember things that we've done in the past. So if needed, we can always go back there, because at the end of the day, it's wonderful to have a place to come back to. Shabbat Shalom, Shana Tova u'Metuka, Gmar Chatima Tova.
Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi. Thanks for the message this morning.
You're welcome.
And one person on the chat liked your joke. I don't know if other people other than the chat liked it, but one person on the chat liked it.
Maybe he was the boy of the joke.
Maybe. Let's rise for Haazinu on page 44.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי ארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות אדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יקרוב השמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו, ושכינתו זו, וגובי מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו וזולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבות אל לבביך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת עינו. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד, ושמו Rabbi.
We invite you to remain standing as we recite together the words of the Mourner's Kaddish. I can tell you it was a very tough week here in Winnipeg with our Jewish community. We lost a number of people. Rabbi Moss and I made many trips out to the cemetery this past week. Not something that we're ever proud to do, but it's something that we turn to here on page 46 with these words. As we mourn the passing and honor the memory this week of Vivian Yanofsky, and offer our heartfelt sympathy to Albert Yanofsky and Sharon Bunov Yanofsky, Deborah Yanofsky, Arnold Yanofsky, Gilbert Hecht, and Roz Hecht. We mourn the passing of Rini Goldberg and extend our sincere condolences to Frank and Mercedes Goldberg, Marilyn and Norman Goldberg, Lori and Leslie Goldberg, Jerry Sawyer, and Rita Masters. We mourn the passing of Irving Sonny Rose and offer our deepest sympathy to Perry and Marlene, Scott and Teresa, and to Daniel. We also mourn the passing of Morris Raisin and extend our heartfelt sympathy to Carol Raisin, Brenly Raisin and Michael Miller, Stephen Raisin, and Tanis Kyle. And we mourn the passing this week of Ben Rikus and offer our deepest sympathy to Faye Rikus, to Mark and Barb Rikus, to Neil and Susan Rikus, and to Les Rikus. And finally, this week we mourn the passing of Manny Sousa, a beloved photographer, part of the Jewish community, many events for many years. We also extend condolences to the family of Nathan Elbaz. We're still in Shloshim, the first month of losing a loved one. And we have Yortzites to commemorate in this week coming up. Saul Rodkin, brother of Louis Rodkin. Louis Max Waterman, grandfather of Brenly Treppel. Bert Siegel, father-in-law of Morley Rip. Alexander Chachanoff, father-in-law of Shelley Chachanoff. Sam Clapman, husband of Ruth Clapman and father of Jody, Sandra, Marla, and Hartley. Frida Bay, mother of Minnie Bell. Israel Asper, father of Gail Asper and grandfather of Stephen and Jonathan. And Mary Siegel, mother of Lolly Gutman, all of blessed memory. Mourner's Kaddish. Yit Gadal v'yit Gadash Shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Be'alma divrach irutei v'yamlich malchutei. B'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael. B'agalau v'zman kariv v'imru.
Amen.
Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabbah mevorach le'alam u'lamei amaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shemei d'kudsha b'richu. Le'ela, le'ela, mikol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran be'alma v'imru, Amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, Amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, Amen.
Amen.
You may be seated. Some concluding words, Rabbi. What should we do?
We should do another Olam.
I meant more so which one?
I don't know. We have so many Adon Olams that it sometimes is difficult to pick one over the others. You want to go traditional or modern?
It's your call. I'm giving you the power.
Wow.
What if we did, I'm not sure which is the right key for you, but
Okay. The march.
the march.
Okay. Let's march.
I wonder if that's maybe I'll go up a little. Maybe.
Adon Olam. No.
You liked it there?
Yeah. Yep. Adon Olam,
Adon Olam,
Asher Malach, B'terem Kol, Yatzir Nivra, Letnasa, B'chefzo Kol, Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Adon Olam, Ve'acharei Kichlot HaKol, Levado Imloch Nora Adon Olam, Ve'u Haya, Ve'u Ovel, Ve'u Yeh V'tifara Adon Olam, Asher Malach, B'terem Kol, Yatzir Nivra, Letnasa, B'chefzo Kol, Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Adon Olam, Ve'u Echad, Ve'en Sheni, Le'am Shilo Le'achmira Adon Olam, Beli Reshit, Beli Tochlit, Ve'lo Ha'od Ve'am Yisra Adon Olam, Asher Malach, B'terem Kol, Yatzir Nivra, Letnasa, B'chefzo Kol, Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Adon Olam, Ve'u Eili, Ve'chai Koali, Ve'tzur Chevli, Ve'etzara Adon Olam, Ve'u Nisi, Umanos Li, Menat Kosi Ve'yom Ekra Adon Olam, Asher Malach, B'terem Kol, Yatzir Nivra, Letnasa, B'chefzo Kol, Azai Melech Shemo Nikra
Adon Olam,
Ve'ya'adon Afkid Ruchi,
Olam.
Ve'et Tisham Ve'ayra Adon Olam, Ve'im Ruchi,
Adon.
Gevi'ati,
Olam.
Adonai li ve'lo ira Adon Olam,
Asher Malach, B'terem Kol, Yatzir Nivra, Letnasa, B'chefzo Kol,
Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Adon Olam. Shabbat Shalom umevorach,
Shabbat
Shana
Shalom,
Tova
everyone.
umetuka, Gemar Chatima Tova. Thank you all for tuning in.
And an easy fast, everybody.
Bye now.